Today is a historic day for the sport of basketball and for the state of Western Australia.
That's ridiculous! Westcott at his very, very best!
We are unleashing a new, powerful movement in basketball where the whole sport comes together under Hoops Fest, the first ever time this has been held.
Thanks for being with us once again on the Gold Standard. This is our look at the Australian Boomers, the Australian Opals, South Sudan, and everything that's going on during Paris. And, well, we have some good news and we have some bad news for you on this Saturday morning. The bad news is that Australia went down 77-71 overnight against Greece in a game that's got a lot of talking points out of it. The good news is that we will go through to the next stage. We'll get to that very shortly as well. I'm Jack Heverin. Two men who know exactly what it takes at this time of a tournament is Andrew Bogut and Brad Newley. Good morning to both of you. Very much a game of two halves, this one. It's hard to know where to start.
Yeah, it's look, in these tournaments, you need luck. You need a lucky bounce. You need a crossover game that a result goes your way, and that's been our luck so far. I mean, to finish second with the way we played last night is a huge positive. Look, last night, I think our first half, we kind of sleepwalked out there thinking we're just going to tick a box against Greece, and you can't do that against any team in the Olympics. And, to give up 53 points in the first half and then keep them in the 20s in the second, I think we really turned it on in the second. But, a bunch of different concerns, but a tale of two halves. I think, we can't afford to be so inconsistent. And I think that's been the Boomers' problem, from 23, really, from the 23 World Cup to now, is we'll look super good in patches, 5-6 minutes, but then we'll look super bad in patches. And to be consistently good in these tournaments, you got to kind of flatline it a little bit.
No, good morning, guys. Yeah, definitely, like you said, tale of two halves. Super lucky to have the result we've had. I mean, we talked about relying on mathematics the other day and the dangerous game that it is, and what do you know, it's kind of rolled our way. I thought we might have been a little naive heading into that game. The commentary around, loading up on Giannis, sagging off Calathes, these kind of things. Like, these two guys are, supreme players. Nick Calathes has played on the best teams in Europe, won Euroleagues. Giannis is an NBA MVP. He's used to these coverages. So if you get the slightest thing wrong at the start of the game, they're going to capitalise. And they did that for the most part in that first half. And I think in whatever half time, Goorj has rallied the guys, or whatever's happened, they've obviously talked about that. And the second half was much better. I thought in the second half, the earlier pickup of Giannis, a guy like that, you give him a head of steam. Even though you're loading up, he can still play through that. He can draw fouls. So I think taking away his run up really affected his ability to make more plays. And credit to the Greeks, a couple of their shooters shot with the ball really well. Papagiannis was a problem down low. It was an ugly game. It was a typical Greek kind of basketball game. Having spent some time there, I've seen a lot of that. Games in the 60s. But the second half was much better, and now we get a swing. We've got to wait and see what happens tonight.
Jock Landale, 17-8, was Australia's leading scorer. He's having a fantastic campaign. We'll talk about him very shortly. Paddy Mills, 13 points on 5 of 15. Dyson Daniels, 11, 8, and 6 for the Boomers. I just want to go back to a common theme. We always start with your main takeaways each from this game. So, Bogues, you're saying that you think perhaps Australia might have almost mentally tried to cruise through this game. And Newells, you're saying that perhaps we weren't locked in where we needed to be. So was a lot of this game lost before it started?
Look, I mean, a little bit. But I think that, Greece's performances, they lose a tough one to Canada, and they get done by Spain. It was probably kind of like, they're the worst team in our group. We'll tick the box on this one. But we turned it on when we had to, but it could have easily went the other way. I mean, we're down double digits in the first half. We kind of claw it back to, I think, 12 or 13 before halftime. But we lose that game by more than 13, 14 points. We're out, right? It could have easily been a double digit deficit. And then you look at the Spain Canada game, that could have snuck over to Spain, and we finished fourth. So you need those lucky bounces. And hey, we make our own destiny. It would have been nice to do it in our own hands, but I just felt like we didn't come out with the same energy, passion, physicality that we had the first two games. It was noticeable to me that Greece isn't known to be a physical, pick up full court defensive team that's going to grind it out, and they did that to us in the first half, and were making shots. And I think we got caught up in, it was a high-scoring half. Everyone was getting shots up. Everyone was feeling good about themselves because everyone was getting touches and shots. And, that's not we can't win those games against, the Serbias, the Germanys, the France, the US, and that's probably going to be one of our next opponents. So I think we definitely need to clean that up a little bit.
You mentioned those, the guys, Dyson, Jock. They to me, they were awesome. But there's a guy you left off there, Delhi.
Yeah.
I thought his little impact when he came in just really changed the tempo of the game a little bit and kind of sped them up a little bit to a spot where they didn't want to be. Having been around Delhi for quite a while now, as soon as that warm up top comes off, you can see him in his jersey. That means that's his message to Goorj or whoever's the coach. Get me out there, and he was great when his minutes kind of turned the game around a little bit. So maybe we see a little bit of him earlier next match.
Well, it takes us to that third quarter, Newell. So in the first quarter, Australia conceded 25. Second quarter conceded 28. And as Bogut said, Greece were getting almost whatever they wanted at the offensive end. Then the Boomers keep Greece to 9 points in the third quarter. Now, only scored 14 of their own, but kept Greece to 9 and stopped them all together. How did it happen?
I just think the guys did a much better job of getting into the pack defense that they've probably, like, they would have planned for playing against the Giants. It was just, and the earlier pickup, I think they were picking up full court, so everybody was on from the get go. Then you see your point guard picking up full court, that your wings, well, he's picking up. If I don't do it, I'm letting the side down. I think it's probably one of those kind of messages. And all of a sudden that they're all in sync.
Yeah, you look at Delhi. It's always hard to look at plus minus, but 7 minutes plus 10.
Yeah,
and to the eye test, it looked that way. He came in, he picked up full court, hit a big three, kind of a straight arm three that kind of had to go in, went in. But his defense, his kind of intensity lifted the troops. I thought Dante was also very good defensively and just getting the paint. He has 5 assists to 1 turnover. He was 2 for 9, but I thought he was much more balanced the way he played. I mean, Dyson Daniels is just really established himself as a great two-way player. I mean, he's shooting the ball well from 3 in this tournament, confident. And Josh Giddey didn't have a great game. Thought he was, looking for his shot a little bit too much at times, but still, you pick up the stat sheet, he has 9, 11, and 6. 5 turnovers, needs to clean up. And to Goorj's comments that we spoke about offline, that there was a little bit of hero ball in that first half where guys were it was all coming easy and guys were kind of overdoing it a little bit offensively. I think we're the best when the ball moved with so many good passes. And I've been saying it from the start, I'd love to see the ball go inside more. I think that we, when our offense bogs down, I know it's not, our offense really isn't getting it inside, but when things bog down offensively, like we saw in that second half where we couldn't get a bucket, everything was kind of above the 3-point line with pick and rolls and handoffs. I'd love to see us throw it to a Jock Landale at the elbow or the block, even a Josh Giddey. When Josh Giddey's struggling the way he is, you get him on the block and run some action off that. He's the best, one of the best passers, not just on our team, but in the tournament. You can cause a lot of problems. So I'd love to see some, paint touches that way rather than just constantly going off the dribble.
Did you agree, Newells, with what Brian Goorjian had to say post-game, that in that first half there was a lot of hero ball that took over?
Yeah, potentially it was. I don't think it would have been like an on-purpose situation when guys are thinking, I'm going to try and win it myself. That's for sure. It was just guys thinking, I need to make something happen for the team. And that can happen in world basketball. Guys, you're trying to do what you're best for your country and you think that's the way to do it. Sometimes it's your instinct. But I think that, those role players, the inside touches are super important. I think we just need to get a couple clean early looks that all of a sudden you hit a couple nice, put a couple sets in there for a shooter. All of a sudden, coming off a pin down or something like that, just to knock it down, that can ease the tension of the group a little bit. And I think something like that would help in the next game.
Yeah, and just quickly, I think it's a dangerous game. coming out shooting threes. I think that, a lot of the Euro teams are really, really good at establishing a paint presence early, whether it's through pick and roll or post-ups, and then everything's going to come through that. I think at times we start off games, and look, last night, Paddy hit 2 big threes to start the game, and we're shooting the ball okay from 3. But I think, it's easy to adjust defensively to that. I think once teams start getting, if we get to the paint, dunks, layups, floaters, then teams have to adjust to that, and then the 3 ball's going to come. I've always been kind of the philosophy of you want to try to paint attack early, and then everything else will come. If you start shooting the ball from 3 early, I think it's much easier to guard.
Free throws. 10 of 21 from the line last night. Ouch.
Yeah, I'm not going to make too many comments. I'm going to late high 60s, low 70s. And Bogut is probably with me. So, I'm not going to pot him too hard. I may have shot a few shockers over the years, but Drewy, I could hear his seething through the telecast last night. He got excited about the shuffle cut earlier. Surprise, surprise. But free throw is one of those things, man. It happens. Tension, it can get to you, and you see guys who are career 85, 80%. They drop down in big moments. I'm sure they'll get the reps up. It's just one of those things. It's hard to reenact when you're not in the moment. That could have been costly for us. It was a 6-point game. What was the margin? 9, I think, or something like that was the dangerous mark. So, we make some of those all of a sudden, potentially win the game. But I think it's hard just to solely blame that on the Opals that had the same problem themselves. So I don't know what's going on over there. Maybe, get a few more free throws instead of sitting around having coffees in the village.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, Jock Landale, historically a great free throw shooter, 3 for 8. Dyson Daniels 1 for 3. So Dante 1 for 3. And then I think guys are just overthinking it and just missing them. A few of them went in and out. A few of them were all over the place. But I think you just move on from it. You don't, if you're Brian Goorjian and the coaching staff, you don't overly address it and then put the muzzle on guys like, hey, what the hell are free throws? We're going to spend an extra 30 minutes shooting free throws. I don't think you do any of that. Let guys stay in their same routines, post-practice, shoot around. It'll revert to the mean. Averages and numbers always do. So I'm not overly worried about it. It would have been nice to knock them down. But even with that poor free throw shooting, I don't think that was... you look at a stat sheet and say that's why we lost. But I think it was the energy and effort starting the game and us digging such a huge hole of almost a 20-point deficit. They're hard to come back from in FIBA basketball.
So we're happy to
I just caught the end of the 3-on-3, and Rick Barry was in the crowd. The old underarm shot. His son was playing. And maybe he can come and give some tips for the boys, a couple of bucket shots.
Well, funnily enough, he used to come out, just a completely random side note, he used to come out to Warriors stuff before I got there, and anyone he talked to or touched when he came as a guest, he'd try to make shoot underhand. So that was always quite funny because guys would just lose their minds. Like, I'm not going to shoot underhand. So he loves it.
So happy to give the free throws a mulligan. Turnovers, though, is that becoming a problem? Double-digit turnovers again, 16 last night, 15 in the loss to Canada off the top of my head. Is that a concern for Brian Goorjian?
Yeah, for sure. We were in phases, we're loose with the ball. Josh Giddey, as I said, a high turnover game, but it's the way we turn the ball over. Loose passes, kind of a three-quarter court, trying to get it over. Delhi threw one late. That was a pretty poor one. Just taking some risks that we don't need to take. And it's the kind of turnovers. Old coaches of ours, probably Newell's has probably heard a similar thing in playing in Europe, was, we had Rick Majerus used to say, I'd rather you get the ball and boot it into the 10th row of the arena for your turnover than make it a live ball turnover because we can't get our defense set. So, and that last night, you look at points off turnovers, Greece 20 points off turnovers. We were 12. I think in the first half, it was something like 16-4. So we cleaned it up a little bit. But when you turn it over, especially when Greece was sputtering with their offense in the second half, we threw them a few turnovers to get easy layups. It really helps you. So we're going to make sure that we just look after the ball, make solid passes. But it's kind of a push or pull thing, right? Like you want guys to play free. You want Giddey to make those decisions of making those good passes that we've seen make off shuffle cuts and back cuts and all that kind of stuff. But you also want to look after the ball. So you don't want to take confidence away from guys. But you also want to say, hey, like this is starting to hurt us a little bit, and against a good Euro team, which might be Serbia or Germany or someone like that down the line, we've got to really tighten it up.
I mean, Bog's probably a bit more clearer than me on that one, but I think the pace of play a little bit too. Like we want to play quick, and sometimes that can cause the high risk kind of turnovers. At times you're better off getting a shot up as well. Like you take a shot over a turnover at times, and turning down a good shot in these kind of moments can cause issues. And I think if you got to take it, they'll discuss it. I mean, the Euros tend to sit on the ball a lot more, so they have a lower turnover rate. So I think just our pace of play is probably really promoting the more turnovers.
Let's talk about one big positive for Australia, and we've been singing his praises all campaign, is Jock Landale. Excellent again last night, 17 and 8. Had to deal with a couple of foul issues, but when you got Giannis doing his thing down low, it can be sometimes hard to handle. Looking beyond Paris, what does this do for Jock in terms of the future? You could argue he's not in the best situation potentially in the NBA. What does it do for a guy like Jock Landale and his stocks moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, he's shown what he can do. He moves well without the ball. He plays the right way. He doesn't force things offensively. You don't ever see Jock try to take a 1 foot fall away just because we're running a post up for Jock and he thinks he has to shoot it. If he gets a post up, he makes the right basketball play, whether that's a double team coming, he'll hit a shooter. He's great off handoffs. So I think he's, most of us within the basketball community know his value. And I think Houston figured out his value late in that season. He was in the doghouse for most of that year. Couldn't get minutes, couldn't get consistent minutes. They had an injury or two. Şengün got hurt. And then all of a sudden he comes in and plays very, very well. So I think he's going to remain in Houston. He's got that interesting contract that's a team option every year, which you never want to be in. But he's probably one of the big future points of our program with the Boomers. I think it's turning into his team or his program down the line. I think he's going to be the mainstay. Great culturally for the team. Loves playing for the Boomers. Loves coming home. So I think that's a great piece to build around, especially when you got the likes of Dante and Josh Giddey and Dyson Daniels from that big spot. So I think he's done a sensational job. We need to keep it going. And like I said, got to get it inside a little bit more and get the ball in his hands, because when he touches the ball, good things happen.
I just love the way he tries to keep the ball alive on the offensive glass. He's not necessarily getting a rebound, but he's in there trying to flip it out. And I actually thought he was a bit stiff at times. He might have got some calls under the hoop where it looked like he got pushed and those kind of things. I just love the way he competes and keeps the ball alive, and that goes a long way in a big guy's career. And all the best to him.
Last one from last night's game, and then we'll start to look forward. It's hard to look forward because we don't know who Australia play as yet, but D&P for Josh Green and even a D&P for Joe Ingles, where did kind of wonder at times whether 4 or 5 minutes from Joe may have been valuable. Were you surprised with either or both of those?
Well, Josh had 4.5. Jack.
Josh had 4, sorry, yes. Yeah, but... Yeah, sorry.
Josh Green didn't play much. But
must have been when I went to the toilet.
Just looking at the stat sheet, that's the only reason I know. But he didn't really have an impact. I think he just looks out of sorts. Like he doesn't look good out there right now. He hit the side of the backboard, I think, on a 3-point attempt. In the corner in front of our bench, like just doesn't look himself. I think he's trying to find some consistency, some rhythm, but now his minutes are going up and down. Helter skelter, as Newell knows, it's always hard when you get a couple of minutes, you make a mistake, you come out, you come back in, and then you're in your own head and making mistakes. So the rotation, I was surprised to see Zoab come out there at that point. I thought he was really impactful for his 5 minutes. Big block shot, his plus minus of 9 in 5.5 minutes. I thought he did pretty well. McVeigh's minutes dried up a little bit. Nick Kay wasn't great, so they were looking for something else. So going down the line, I think this roster is deep. You talk about Delhi and all the flack that was made of him making the squad. Excuse me. You see why he made the squad, because he made that impact in 7.5 minutes. With Ingles, I just don't think you can play 12 guys. So, if you're playing Joe, then you're benching maybe Green and McVeigh or something like that. So I don't think he cracks the rotation. I think maybe late in the game you need a 3-point shooter in the corner, but it's hard to do at that age.
Yeah, I just think, like, being involved in Olympic campaigns and these kind of things, it's hard if you're going to go out of your way to kind of get guys confident for games, and that I think that's a risk. or to give guys time when you've got something in front of you, which is a do-or-die situation. So I can't imagine things changing too much rotation-wise as far as those couple of guys go. Who knows? Greeny might, stick a corner three, all of a sudden he's up and about. It's just one of those things. But, yeah, I don't think they'll put a whole heap of energy into changing, who's playing, who's not. But, just those guys just got to be ready. And if they get their number called, they'll get out there.
So what comes next? We wait and see in terms of our next opponent. There's still a couple of pool games that need to play out. But I guess the question is, and again, this is having both of you on this show and picking your brains is so invaluable for us fans at this time of a tournament. So we lose our last game, but still go through. What does it look like now for the coaching staff and for the players? Is there a lot of conversations about things that we can do differently, things to change, or is it more of the same? What happens next?
You'd imagine. I believe they're on their way to Paris, so the tournament moves over there. So there's a bit of a logistical issue or something like that, but they probably get in, and who knows? Probably a quiet day today with some sort of video of the guys who didn't play are probably getting shots, getting a workout in. It's kind of hard to prepare for an opponent that you don't exactly know. I'd imagine the guys and the staff will be watching that game very closely tonight, but the conversation probably a little bit focused on what we need to do a little bit better before they enter the scout kind of mode, because they don't know who they're playing. But I'm sure they got people ahead of it. I'm sure Chancey or DP or whoever's watching the other games have got a scout for each of them. One's ready to go. But probably focusing a little bit on what we need to do a little bit better before we know exactly who we're playing. That would be my summary. Bogs, you've been in that situation a little bit more recent than me. Give us your analysis.
Yeah, I think the next couple of days will be much lighter. The travel day, they got to prepare for those cardboard beds in the village, so that'll be fun for some of the big
one of your favourites.
110 kilos like Magnay and Reith and Jock. I'm sure Jock will flick a text through to me saying, "Man, check this bed out." But a lot of distractions going into the village. A lot going on. A lot of moving parts. From what we've read, food shortages have run out of meat at times. So there's a lot of different things you got to go and get distractions on. But I think what we'll clean up, we'll watch some film. I think the turnover thing that we've spoken about is going to be the most addressable thing. Like, we can't throw the ball away 16 times and expect to win games, especially for live ball turnovers. So they'll clean that up. And judging upon Goorj's comments with the hero ball, I'd love to see, some ball movement, getting the ball inside to elbows, getting guys in positions a bit lower on the floor. So I think they'll probably look to do that as well. But as you mentioned earlier, Jack, I still, that lineup from the bench onwards still isn't set in stone. It's still, they're still getting Delhi random minutes. Reith comes in, hasn't played much in the tournament. McVeigh's minutes dried up significantly. Like, I think they're still searching. I think the Boomers know they're probably lucky to get through in second, very lucky, might I add. But they haven't played their best basketball this tournament yet. I mean, Spain's probably the closest that we played our best basketball. But even that in patches wasn't great. We haven't put together a solid 40 minutes. So if I was the coaches, I'd be going into meetings saying, we need a consistent effort you're going to have lulls. So we need 32 to 35 minutes of consistent Boomer basketball. We can deal with 5 minutes of a lapse. We can't deal with a half that's a lapse. And that's what we've been kind of serving up the last two games. So I look to clean that up, and it's always hard to scout for an opponent you don't know. So they'll all be glued to their TVs over the next 24 hours trying to figure out who they have.
Is there an ace up Brian Goorjian's sleeve? Is there a move that he can make going into the next game that can potentially change things up a little bit?
I'm not really, do you throw like a zone? I'm not, to me, Goorj tends to show his cards pretty openly. So I can't imagine him coming up with something, magical. It's just, the old, just show the best version of who you are. And that's probably what they need to be. Back what we've been best at, our running game, and just taking care of the ball. We've touched on it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to change much. I think it's too late in the tournament. I know we don't really have a zone. I didn't see a zone worked on in camp at all. To pull that out randomly in the tournament won't happen. Offensively, it'll just be, hey, let's watch this film this first half. Is this effort Boomer effort? Is that acceptable? Most guys in that squad will be like, look, it wasn't. We made a lot of mistakes and our effort wasn't there. I'll look to clean that up, and there's not a whole lot more adjustments you can make at this point in the tournament. So I think they'll continue to try to play a high-tempo game. Limit turnovers is the big one. Like, I just think if they can stay in the 9 to 10 turnover realm for a game and have your 23 odd assists like they did last night, we'll be in good stead. Everything else will take care of itself. But get stops at the defensive end, don't turn the ball over. They're the two most simple things we can do. They'll show that on film and press the guys to continue that track.
A quick one before we finish up here on the Gold Standard, and it's all good news, and that's that Supercoach NBL is back for NBL 25, and even better news, the pre-registrations are open now. It is the official fantasy game of the NBL. I've already started to think about some of my mainstays for my team this season, and you should do the same. Head to supercoach.com.au to sign up and receive all of the latest updates. We'll catch you next time on the Gold Standard.